So like I mentioned, my name is Leandra. I work on curriculum, product, and teacher training here at Vidcode. Okay, great. Yeah, welcome everybody. So today is going to have a focus on Vidcode and libraries. It seems like we have a couple teachers here. So I'll try and keep the description of courses a little bit general so that it applies to all the teachers who are here as well as the libraries. So let's see. Oh, awesome. Yeah, hacker hours are great. So just a quick overview for those of you who are new here, who don't have accounts yet. Vidcode is an online platform that teaches anyone how to code. We do have a focus on tweens and teens, but they are all learning JavaScript, which is a real programming language. They just do it by making memes, by making filters, by making the sorts of apps and projects that they share with their friends and see on their phones. So the sorts of projects that students make on Vidcode are definitely focused on like tweens and teens, but there's no reason adults couldn't come in and focus on courses as well and learn with us. So that's totally fine, Maria, Elena. Today, I'm going to be going over some of the resources that are available online for all of you right now, as well as different ways that libraries are running programs, including clubs and online workshops. So some of what students make on Vidcode include games, classic brick breaker, kind of going slow on my computer. As well as animations, creatures, stop motion projects. This was part of an actual like digital literacy project that was done in a library. Sorry, everyone. Having a few computer issues. Okay, great. I'm sorry about that. But let's go ahead and keep going anyway. Is everyone able to see my screen? Okay, great. Cool. I'm not sure what's going on with Zoom and me today, but I'm just going to ignore it and keep going. So a lot of libraries choose to run coding programs and classes and clubs on Vidcode because it requires absolutely no previous coding experience to run classes. You can go on vidcode.com right now, make an account, be able to add students really easily, and have them go through tutorials on their own, following the lesson plans that we've made to run things like discussions, sharing, and have students build out these really awesome portfolios of work. even if you've never taught a coding class before or coded anything yourself. So let me show you how something like that might work. Once you've made an account, you just add students from your class dashboard really easily. I know some of you are probably still running remote clubs right now. In a remote setting, sharing with the URL is the easiest way to get started, just sending it out to them. We've seen a lot of remote coding classes and coding clubs. Well, schools have been closed, well, libraries have been closed. Some of the things that we've learned and seen are that having like a dedicated time to still meet and still all code together can be really powerful, as well as having an opportunity to share student projects at the end to make it still feel social even though everyone's not together. Once students have signed up with that link, they'll appear here on your dashboard. You'll be able to see when they joined, if that matters for your library's reporting, as well as how often they're logging in, what they're making in the course, any quiz results, and lesson plans for each course. On the student side, students have a full pathway of activities that they use to learn to code, starting with the absolute basics, like you're going to see, building to writing their own code in Make a Meme, where they first start using variables and editing their properties and making projects that way. Building to arrays, to loops, to conditionals, to interactivity and modifying strings and making their own video games, up to more advanced object-oriented software development. So that's the pathway for JavaScript. We are adding Python this summer, and that is set to launch in that is set to launch in September. I'm really excited about it. It won't have the depth of content that the JavaScript one has. So if you are looking for like a full year club and want more of a pathway, the JavaScript is probably the best way. There's also starter projects here. Starter projects are a great place to run a workshop. And these are all just free online. A lot of times before libraries are ready to dedicate a full course or like a full club, they want to sort of feel out if their patrons are going to be interested first, their members are going to be interested first. Using a starter project for a workshop is a really great way to do that. Code a Snapchat filter is a really great way to get students in the door who might not otherwise be interested in showing up to a coding club. Code the News is a really great project. Students can actually record themselves and code newscasts about your workshop, about Hour of Code, about your school. And this, I know it says Hour of Code, but it can take up to 3 hours to do, or longer, depending on the age of students. So if you are doing kind of like a full day workshop or hackathon, Hour of Code, Code the News is a really good place to start. Let me click into create a filter here just to show you the actual student interface and where they'll be spending most of their time. While we're waiting for this, and I apologize again for my computer, let me know sort of what, especially the libraries here, what have you done already as far as coding clubs and resources that you've used in the past to engage your library's members? While that's happening, I'm glad that my workstation loaded. So this is the coding workstation. This is where students are going to spend the bulk of their time creating and learning. For each project, there are instructions on the left here. My actual code editor, I can type in here, but I type in here whenever I want. But the projects actually start off with dragging and dropping. My canvas, where I am going to be able to see my work, and my media gallery. a big part of Vidcode is that students can upload their own photos and videos, download them, put them back into Instagram, choose their own graphics, their own stickers, their own music, record things from their webcam. So all of these things where they can make things that like reflect themselves and kind of bring their personality into each project is really, really important for the courses and for the students' learning journeys. When I'm first starting, like I said, it starts very much drag and drop. So I go to my media gallery, choose the video that I want and drag it in. And I'm going to see the code appear and get reflected in my actual canvas right away. In addition to the tutorials, there's also videos that go with each one, code throughs that you can use as a teacher and instructor to learn about the project beforehand, or for students that are more visual learners who want to follow along. A lot of coding clubs that have been meeting virtually do a lot of like students following along with the instructor. So the instructor will go through a project, talk about it, introduce concepts like sequencing. For example, if I bring in my vignette, it's going to look very different at the end of my code than at the beginning of my code because my code is run in order. So now it's white and getting covered by the tin, for example. So that's the sort of thing the instructors will do. We've also seen a lot of really good virtual debugging. So when classes are meeting live, obviously you can't walk around to kids' computers and look at them. But we've seen a lot of like students either sharing their screen and other kids in the club actually helping them, or just copying and pasting their code into the chat. And then the instructor will just paste it into their workstation and ask kids questions about it to kind of debug it together, which has been really powerful. Well, when students publish a project, it appears on your dashboard. You're able to see their progress. You're able to see all their work. They're also able to edit their work, and students can remix each other's projects. Some really fun assignments we've seen with that are things like comics. So a student will code half of a comic, and then another student has to remix it and finish it, or a monster. So a student will like create a monster with code, and then another student will remix it and add something, or like add an effect. And then as far as like editing their own work, they're able to make different versions of it based on feedback that you as the instructor give them or like other students give them. And you're able to see a version history of all of their projects. Like I said, students can also download projects. They can link to them directly or embed them like they would on YouTube. So we give them a lot of ways to kind of share out their work. So I want to pause here and see if anyone has any specific questions. I know we have a lot of different libraries here, a few different schools, and I want to make sure that I get to everything. We're right at sort of the end of the time that I promised. Cool. Well, thank you all so much for coming. I think it's cool that we had such a mixed group here today. Oh, great. Mary Elena asked, I know you said you don't need experience coding, but is it recommended? There's a lot of different ways that libraries and schools approach this. One, if instructors don't have experience programming but want to be able to help the kids a bit more, they'll maybe go through our instructor course. We have one that teachers can do in their own time. I'll actually just send you that link right here because it's just free online. Actually, sorry, I'll send it in a follow-up. My computer is glitching out. But everyone will get the email in the follow-up, so just make sure to open it. But it'll include the virtual teacher course. It takes about 10 hours, and a lot of teachers especially, since they're going to be meeting the students more often than a librarian would potentially, often go through that beforehand. It's not necessary, especially in a club. Students come in and help each other. We have a lot of videos to support. And a lot of times in clubs, we see librarians actually inviting members of the community in, which is really great and gives them a chance to hear about like programming and technology in different contexts by these members of their community. And it's so much easier to do that in a club setting than it is in a school setting. So I think that all of those things are like much more important than like having previous coding experience coming in. Because especially in a club too, students might all be at different levels. So being able to like be open-minded and have them help each other and like encouraging their creativity is going to be a lot more important than having experience coming in. With game design, can students create multiple stages of one game? Yeah, a few different ways. Students can, on their own, definitely make a game with multiple stages. Like make it harder as they go through, or make a platformer that has like different levels. It is all 2D games. We only have a 2D canvas right now. There are no 3D games. Kids ask for that, and it's something that we're thinking about for the future. There's also, we talked about remixing. I think that's a great assignment idea. It's not built in right now, but if students wanted, they could like make one version of the game and have like other students remix different levels, and then have someone like put them all together into one game. I think that could be a really cool project, and that's totally possible on the platform right now. Jocelyn asks, what are the costs associated with any of your courses? The first 30 tutorials are completely free, which is enough for many libraries. It's the sandbox as well as the first 2 units and the starter projects. Beyond that, we have both a coding kit that unlocks around 280 tutorials. For libraries, it's usually $600 for a summer. For schools, we have different pricing. It's more annual. And then sometimes libraries want to offer Vidcode as a database with a full course. And that's would be like a different conversation if anyone was interested in that. But there's a lot of free material online, so I definitely recommend everybody just making an account and playing around and adding students and having them explore. There's also the sandbox that has all of the blocks and reference material that's available on Vidcode where students can come in and play around. And we see a lot of creativity in there as well. Cool. Well, it doesn't seem like there are any other questions, but thank you all so much for coming. Oh, sorry, one more. If anyone needs to leave, they can. What is the youngest age being able to use Vidcode? That's a great question. So I used to say around 10, but we actually have an 8-year-old at one of the clubs that we were supporting, and he's crushing it. He's like doing amazing. And so I would say the youngest is being able to use a computer with a keyboard, like not a tablet. It needs to be like a Chromebook, or, I mean, it can be used on a tablet, but if a student only has exposure to playing around on a tablet and don't have experience typing, it gets tricky. So anyone that has experience typing anything, experience with Scratch, can 100% move on to Vidcode. This 8-year-old is doing amazing. Some 8-year-olds have trouble, but by the time they're 10, they're usually good to get started. Each of my students have their own Chromebook, but are they able to progress without my intervention? Yes, so we are adding the ability this summer to assign specific activities and specific units. Right now, students just have access to everything. Back when schools were in person more, we left it up to the teacher to assign activities that day. With the move to more virtual classrooms, there has been a very large need to assign things specifically and to set up walls on the educator side. So we're adding that in right now. But those will never be necessary. So if you do want students to be able to go through it without intervention, that's always going to be possible. I plan on volunteering at the juvenile center with a high rollover population. Is this doable for them? 100%. I think so. I think they would definitely be able to do it with no problems. Part of the platform definitely is that you're able to take the projects, like make a meme, make a filter, and put your own topic, your own spin on it. Like once I ran a workshop for teachers and administrators, and they were talking about student security and privacy, and I had them all make like security memes or like computer privacy memes, which was quite interesting. They made really great projects. And so there's always a way to kind of add something that you think the group you're working with would be interested in on top of like whatever the tutorial is on its own. And yeah, I mean, the other piece is if you, like once you have a Vidcode account and add students to it, they keep those accounts unless you archive them. So if they have access to computers or anything at home and internet at home, they'd be able to continue using those accounts and learning. Yeah. And then that would just, if you are getting like new students in all the time, one of the pieces of advice that I give, because you do end up with students in different places with a high rollover population, one thing that can work well is to put them in different groups. So like newer students in one group, students that have progressed in another group. The other thing to know is that the curriculum is circular. So they do learn about functions and then variables and then objects and then arrays. However, it always loops back on itself, right? Like when you're learning about arrays, you're still using variables. So if you follow the lesson plan for variables and show the video and have a discussion, it's going to be relevant for all the students there, even the ones that have progressed further. Oh, a meme is like a visual joke. Let me see if my computer is working. I'm so sorry, I can't pull anything up. Yeah, a meme is like a visual joke with the same images kind of repeated over and over. Students can use tablets. They cannot use their phones, unfortunately. Oh, I'm glad. Thank you all so much for coming. I apologize again for my computer trouble. And I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend.